So, Danny, back in Notts.
Hi.
On my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday,
What
Beanie.
a present.
Wow, yeah,
What have you got me?
It's in my bag. I've got it in my pocket.
How does it feel being back in Nottingham?
It's really, really surreal. Everything's been really spruced up. You know, I left in 2011, which is obviously a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so much has changed, and yeah, like it just seems so much more fancy and kind of, you know, I know there's shops that are closed and things, but there's also new places, and I think it looks amazing.
So you left in, when was it?
2011.
Wow, so it's 10 years ago now. And you lived here for around
11 years.
Wow, I was doing some digging, and it turns out next year is the 20th anniversary when I first met you.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember when I first met you.
It was at the Broadway Cinema, and you were DJing, and you had a T-shirt on that had like all these kind of dancers on it and stuff.
Yeah, it was BBC Radio 1 did a week-long event in Nottingham where they did workshops and club nights at the Bomb and everywhere else.
One in the city.
And John Peel was doing one at Broadway, and I was playing some records afterwards. Yeah, he said hello to me and stepped over my record box, said excuse me, and that was all I said to him. And I was like,
well, but I met him on Hockley on Goose Gate, and he looked absolutely angry as hell. He looked really, I think he didn't want to be there at all, and he's obviously contractually obligated. He looked well unhappy.
Because that Broadway session, I was handing out flyers for a night I was doing at the Bomb called Noodles, and you came and plonked yourself down next to me. I said, oh, you play Broken Beats, do you? And we just started chatting, and that was that. 20 years ago next month.
Yeah, I can vividly remember it, Beanie, because you had a friend, and you both dressed quite similarly, and you had kind of like, you were really happy and smiley, and you had tight T-shirts on, and it was like, wow, these guys look kind of like they've got jobs, you know?
Seems like, well, it was a long time ago now, but do you ever miss Nottingham at all?
Yes, of course, yeah. I mean, I credit Nottingham as the place that kind of birthed me, really. I mean, I obviously, before I lived in Bristol and I lived in Liverpool, but I was very young. So I moved to Nottingham when I was about 22.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was where I kind of really got into house music. I really got into disco music. I mean, all the kind of... I touched on it in Edinburgh because, you know, obviously it was quite diverse in Edinburgh, but then Bristol was all kind of drum and bass and jungle, and then Liverpool was very much going to cream and going to bugged out. Yeah. So Nottingham was where I kind of got much more sophisticated music taste, I would say. And I really credit the city, you know, with Funky Monkey, DIY, you know, that lineage, Charles Webster, you know, sort of being around that. The Loft, do you remember the Loft on Mansfield Road?
Yes, yeah.
So,
it's all flats now, these places, unfortunately. But
I'm chatting to Simon White on Instagram, we reconnected, and it's like, I'm like, thank you, because that was something in my life that made me, you know, it's hard to explain to people today, but, you know, what we experienced growing up in Nottingham was like this blueprint for how you wanted to live in dance music. And
yeah, it was quite a hedonistic time, those 10, 11 years or so, but... From when you,
no comment.
From when you came to when you left, you changed a lot, as in the music you were making. You started your own label, so a lot of things started to happen an early stage for you. I remember your first records coming out, whenever they were, was it?
2004.
Yeah, so good times, but there's a lot of influences in Nottingham for you. You mentioned some of them.
Yeah.
And you're still collaborating a little bit with them as well, in touch.
Yeah. So people like Jim Barron from Crazy P. I was once the kind of enfant terrible because I was a lot younger, and I thought I had some ideas, and, you know, obviously they were Crazy P, and, you know, I probably, you know, maybe gave them some unwanted advice, and but now me and Jim work together in the studio, so, you know, there's a lot of respect there between us both. And, but yeah, back to influences and stuff, you know, going to the Bomb and hearing people like Kenny Dope and Jazzanova, and, you know, all the drum and bass DJs, you know, getting to stand behind the DJ booth next to the photo machine. Remember the photo machine?
Yeah.
And there was this little kind of barrier, little kind of like from an airport that they would put across to stop people going in the DJ booth. But always by about 1 a.m, that had been left, you know, it was open.
Yeah.
I never went in the DJ booth, but you could get close.
Yeah.
And for me, getting to stand behind the DJs and watch them DJ the best DJs in the world, you know, Derek Carter, you know, Giles Peterson, etc. You know,
we were spoiled, weren't we?
Yeah,
we were very spoiled.
Totally amazing.
And these were nights that were happening every week, almost.
Friday, Saturday. Yeah,
crazy now.
Friday, Saturday. Yeah.
Nottingham does miss a bit of that. We have some good parties going off, but they're promoter led rather than actual venue. Is putting them on rolling every week. So yeah, we were definitely spoiled.
Yeah.
Good times. When you left Nottingham, you moved to Berlin.
Yes.
Which is a big step.
Yeah.
Why Berlin?
Well, okay, so I was booked to DJ on November the 30th, 2010. And basically I went to Berlin to DJ. And when I came back from doing that gig, I was in a long-term relationship which ended, and basically I decided that my way of sort of trying to make the most of the situation was to try and move to Berlin, because when I was in Berlin, even though it was only for 2 days, it was just amazing. Like, people were so stylish, everyone was so thin. You know, Nottingham, I love Nottingham, but people were kind of a bit rough around the edges. And I went to Berlin, and it was like, you know, some kind of electronic beats, kind of, you know, like, you know, do you like Ableton? You know, it was really sort of, you know, what I loved about Berlin was the dance music scene, and kind of it was not, you weren't seen as some kind of chancer, like, oh, you're a DJ, you're not too old to be a DJ. It's like, it was totally, DJs in Berlin were like 45 and they got paid like, you know, $5,000 a gig, and they were really successful, and they were like icons.
How long were you there for?
8 years.
Oh, wow,
so
okay.
I moved there I moved March the 13th, 2011, and I left in the end of June 2018. So it was, you know, seven and a bit years. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely life changing. Like, I would heartily recommend, if you don't have a family, or if you're freshly single, you need to go to Berlin, because I definitely, there was a period where obviously I really missed Nottingham, and it was hard. It was really hard. I mean, I knew 3 people when I moved to Berlin. Knew nobody hardly, but I just had Album of the Month in Debug, which is with Groove Magazine. It was one of the biggest dance music magazines in Europe, actually. Yeah. So, and I DJ'd with Jazzanova at the Worldwide Awards. Yeah. So it's like, you know, when Jazzanova put my record bag for me in the DJ booth in it was, what was the place? It was on Brick Lane, or
Cargo.
Cargo.
I remember. I was there.
Were you? Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. See, I can't remember who was there, because it was such an amazing time for me that it's all a blur. Yeah. But I remember Jazzanova put my record bag in the DJ booth for me, which really was like, wow, these guys are so nice. Yeah. It wasn't like the kind of, oh, you can't use my headphones, you know. And when I moved to Berlin, you know, it was like, I didn't know that I was going to end up releasing on Sonar Collective, and Daniel Best, who's their like tour manager or whatever, their kind of booker, he became like a big person in my life. And, you know, still to this day, like, I'm just doing a remix right now for him of Moiter, which is the German techno marching band, who are like massive, you know. Okay. So it's like, even now I'm still kind of connected with people there. That
Cargo gig and the Worldwide Awards, that brings me on to a question I wanted to ask you about some significant records that you've made. And one of them that I think was the link to the Giles Peets and Cargo Worldwide, which your remix of the Joubert Singers, Stand on the Word, which normally back in the day, years ago, you would give me CDRs and stuff like, listen to this, listen to that, and I'd have a sneak preview of sometimes the things you're working on. But that, I first heard it on actual Giles Peetson's show. I was like, wow, what's this? And that was a record that, I don't know, started to move things for you in a certain direction as well.
It's a breakthrough record.
Which was amazing, really, because that record was quite big. It had a sort of a revival going off in like the early noughties at small parties like Basement Boogaloo, obviously Electric Chair, Manchester. But why remix that record?
The story is, you've already touched upon it. The Unabombers licensed it for an Electric Chair compilation, which was done on Turk.
Right.
Yeah? Yeah. So Turk had acquired the rights for there was no parts. So essentially there was the full track, and then there was a thing called the clapapella, which was the recording of when they were recording the vocals in the church. They played the music through speakers, and then obviously the church people sung way louder. Yeah. So on the clapapella, you can hear the backing track faintly, but there's mainly just everyone going, you know. So that's all I had. Right. And I basically managed to construct. So all I did really was so I just signed to Turk, and I did my. What's the name of the EP I did for Turk? Norway Man, that one. Yeah. So I was kind of like, and what Turk did was they gave me and Maurice Fulton the bits, because Maurice Fulton also did a remix, but his is like absolutely weird as hell.
I've never heard that.
Which is quite ironic, because I was quite influenced by Maurice Fulton on my remix, which I, hand up, I have to give Maurice credit, you know. So I did that remix, and I have to say, it shows how young I was, because I had no idea how big that track was, the Joubert Singers track.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't understand that it was that sort of time. It was very heady, so I was just like, yeah, I'll do that. And it just, I mean, it snowballed. Giles Peterson was playing it, Zane Lowe was playing it on daytime radio, Rob the Bank was playing it, and then about 2 years later, Greg Wilson started playing it everywhere.
Right, yeah.
So I get all these texts like, yeah, Greg's just played your track at the festival. And
it keeps coming out every few years, gets reissued, not just your one, but I mean, there's more remixes that keep coming out. I think, what else can be done to this? But your version was doing something different, so it was interesting.
Yeah,
it still sounds good today.
I wrote it in Snempton on Kentwood Road, 35 Kentwood Road, in the living room, because I was bored of making music in my bedroom, which was where my studio was, and I lived with my friend Harry, and he had these kind of hi-fi speakers.
Yeah.
So the reason that it's come out so bassy, that tune, is because I didn't use studio monitors, I used normal speakers.
Yeah.
So I was just in my living room, kind of bored, just kind of like on a laptop, just, you know. So made in Nottingham.
It still sounds great.
Thank you.
I mean, there's lots of records I could talk about.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a big fan of your music, and there's many significant records I can mention, but got to talk about the one that sort of blew everything a bit crazy, which is Wonky Bassline Disco Banger, that had fans ranging from Elton John to DJ Harvey all over the shop, and that must have been quite a crazy time when that came out. How was it?
Well, I wrote it in 2014, the main idea, and I always tell the story, which is hilarious, that I lost the whole track, basically. I wrote it when I got in after an incredibly hedonistic weekend in Berlin, so that's why the track sounds like it does.
Right.
And I normally, if I'd been out partying and that, when I got home, I didn't want to write any music, you know, I'd want to die. But obviously I was still very enthusiastic, so because I managed to do some tunes. So basically I did this, right, and I was like, you know, yeah, man, this sounds cool. And my friend Chrissy, I Skyped her, and I was like, hey, Chrissy, and I was trying to be like, you know, when you like rock bottom with your lifestyle, but you're trying to sort of pull something out of it. And I was like, look, even though I'm a mess, you know, check out my beats, man, you know. So I was playing her the tune over Skype, and she was like, oh, that sounds great, Danny, cool. But my laptop, I'd taken the battery out because the battery had expanded and you couldn't use the trackpad anymore.
Right.
So basically, because of that, if you pulled the power cable out, the whole thing went down, and I bloody moved the computer too far, pulled the power cable out, and Logic doesn't have an autosave, so I lost it all. It wasn't a whole track, it was the demo.
Yeah.
So the next morning I had to remake it from memory, and I'd basically not been to bed for about 3 days, so I felt like I'd been hit with sticks when I woke up.
So it's truly wonky then.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I remade it from memory, but the good thing was that the samples that I'd used were all in one. This is the thing. I used a recording, right, of records. I did a little bit of sampling, but I can't remember ever recording those records. I have no idea, and it was just literally a recording of some records, and I made the whole tune just from what was in that recording.
Okay.
So it's a combination of things. So that was 2014. Everyone I played the demo to, well, most people were like, some people were like, yeah, this is great, and then the wonky noise came in, and they were like, well, I'm not, you know, people were like, oh, I'm not sure about that, and you know what I mean? It was like, so it was really like, oh, I'm not sure, no, man, no. Some people were like, no. But other people were like that. Like, I remember Casper from Portugal and Mike Stella, they were both like, and Mike Stella's like 50 odd, he knows his shit, you know, he's been DJing for like 30 years. They were like, that's career changing. That is a career, you know, and this is way before it came out.
Yeah.
So it was described as career changing before it was even finished. So
mad times.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. So I guess off the back of that, a lot of things started to happen.
Well, it's one of those things, right? Check this out. Black Madonna, or Blessed Madonna now, Maria, she was at the apex of, like, she was absolutely white hot, like blowing up. Pete Tong interviewed her on his Miami special in 2016, which would be about April, May, and she got to choose one track to represent her sound, which was her track of the summer, and she chose that as her track of the summer.
Okay.
And it was the track of the summer.
And then
it was just things like that. So imagine at the point where Black Madonna was absolutely getting all the support and the attention, like, wow, you know, she used my tune was her sort of tune. So it's just things like that. We're so lucky, you know.
Yeah, but that's how the records work. It's a bit of luck as well, isn't it? Someone hears it and then
massively. It wouldn't happen now. It happened in 2016 because the music industry was different then.
Yeah,
it's not the same anymore now. I don't think it would be possible now. because nothing can get through really now, because obviously everything's so strictly controlled by management.
Yeah.
So it's not possible to get on a record label that has the reach to make a track go that big.
But surely all it needs is a DJ to hear it. Like it's always been the case, and if they hear it and like it, but it's getting it to them.
I don't think anymore, unfortunately. It's not enough to have a music. You can have your record played everywhere in the clubs, but if it's not being kind of spoken about in the press, or it's not being played on Radio 1, or it kind of hasn't happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's why I was really fortunate that, it got played on Radio 1 over 50 times in different incarnations, because I licensed it to Defected and they got remixes done.
Yeah.
So that obviously increased the chances of it being played on Radio 1. So Black Madonna, or Blessed Madonna, she was called Black Madonna then, she chose the Kink remix. She chose me as a one to watch in January 2017, and then used the Kink remix of my tune again. So Maria massively supported me with that tune. So thank you, Maria.
Wow. Well, it brings me on to another thing I wanted to ask you about music production.
Yes.
Since then, and since lockdown, you've started a program called How I Program, where you're helping other producers make music.
Yes.
Seems to be going all right. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's amazing, because I was a teacher for 7 years between 2002 and 2009, but that was the intense research period into the art of the art of the fruits of the night. So it was really difficult to be a college teacher and be a kind of wild DJ party man at the weekend. So now I liked teaching, but the traditional college environment was not for me. It was like, having to sort of, have you done that work? And I'm much more about the culture. So what I love about doing How I Program is it's about presenting culture. I'm getting, really respectable, amazing artists like, Rick Wade or Ian Pooley or Jazzanova to hang out with my group for 2 hours or more. And we watch how they produce, we talk about things. It's not like, you're going to learn how to make the best kick drum in the world. It's not about that.
Inspiration it's about, I guess.
Totally, and about trying to motivate people, trying to create, the thing that we had in Nottingham in the 2000s, going down the record store and have you heard the new Frank Roger? And that's all gone because of the internet. So I'm trying to get that community back where people are just, like right now on my Discord, there's producers from all over the world going, here's a photograph of my studio, and here's this new track. And it's just, I've tried to create a safe space for people who are not interested in the kind of, the kind of rampant nepotism and, kind of lack of meritocracy, which is the current music scene. Yeah.
I mean, your thoughts on the music scene are well documented. Yeah. I've read some of your epic Twitter threads on it all.
Career ending. Career ending.
You've obviously got some strong opinions on it all.
Yeah.
The scene, we say the scene, it's a huge, it's huge. I mean, what is a scene? It could be the very, very top end of dance music and then very small 100 people parties. But you do have strong thoughts on it all. I mean, it must get dispiriting. Obviously,
I think that's why How I Program has saved me.
Yeah.
Because I've actually created something that I dreamed of for other people.
Yeah.
But it's also for me, because obviously I'm kind of like, I'm kind of creating it. I'm trying to create. So it's what I find difficult about doing music as a job is that you could make. I made the biggest selling record of the year in 2016, and I got a few begrudging bookings on the back of that from people that would, and you never get booked again. So my point is that I have to go to that length. I have to make the biggest selling record of the year just to get a chance.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then most of the DJs nowadays, they don't even make records. They've been DJing for 2 years. So it seems a bit strange.
It's a crazy world.
Kind of almost like it's nothing to do with the music, eh? So for my point is, let's not call it music anymore. Yeah. It's not music.
Yeah.
It's just hype or popularity.
Well, bringing things back to parties on a more positive note.
Well, you can cut that bit out.
You are due to play the Soul Buggin 17th birthday party here in Nottingham at the Cell. We're very looking forward to having you over. I did some digging, and it appears the last time you played Soul Buggin night was around 2008, 2009 in Moog. Yeah. I have no memory of it. but the
Matt Shelton.
a flyer exists.
Yeah.
So that's a long time ago. So it's long overdue.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting
Are you
me.
looking forward to coming back?
Of course. Yeah, mate. I've been waiting for I've been hoping, praying for the call for like 9 years. You know.
So we've got a nice basement venue, and which I think you'll like, and our crowd is very open-minded. So. We're looking forward to whatever you've got.
I expect nothing more. Yeah. I'm super happy, and you know, I'm a simple person. You know, music, nice sound, good people. Let's dance.
Cool.
Boom.
We look forward to having you. One last question before I let you go, and this is from a fellow Soul Bugger, Mark.
Yes.
Have you ever found a better fish and chips shop than Anstruther?
Anstruther.
Is it Scotland?
Anstruther. It's Ainster if you live there.
Is it?
Aye, Ainster chippy. Aye. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is really, really, really good. The only criticism I could say is it's so consistently good that it's amazing. It's the best. But it is weird when you're like, oh my God, it's always as good.
Wow.
There's things like the chips, right? There's kind of like, it's hard to explain. You know, if you put like a bit of black pepper in the oil or something, there's like tiny little specks of sort of black on there, and it's not like bad. It's like you know, I don't know what I can describe it to you so much.
Wow.
Like even the chips, they're not uniform. The chips, they sort of go in a little bit in the middle, so as if they've been cut in a tiny bit of a curve. I think there's so many things that they do. It's a science. It's a science. Wow. Yeah, and it's insane. And the thing with Anstruther Chippy is there's 2 or 3 other chippies now on that same street because they can get the overflow.
Yeah,
because it's the best in the UK, definitely. Yeah.
Right, I'll go in.
Mind blowing. Oh, and salt and sauce. Do you know about salt and sauce?
No, what's that?
Okay, so in Scotland, right, in Edinburgh, I think it's mainly, but they don't do salt and vinegar. They do salt and sauce. Salt and sauce. So sauce, it's HP sauce mixed with vinegar.
Right.
So it's like more water, more vinegar. Mind blowing. Imagine,
chips.
yeah, and the fish if you want, but it's a bit hardcore for fish, you know, because it's quite a strong flavour.
Right.
Man, salt and sauce.
I need to try that.
Seriously, like you can make it yourself. Just get HP sauce and mix it with a bit of vinegar, so it's a bit more shakeable, and it just has this really. Imagine like HP sauce, but more acidic.
Deep. Mr. Red Rack'em, thank you.
Is that enough, Beanie? Is that?
That'll do.
Yeah, cool. Okay. He wants to like, get me out of here. Get me out of here.